so we drum. Ring the bell down there. Ring it all over. Ring it all over. Ring it all over. Ring it all over. Hey.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome. I want to welcome all those who have chosen to join us here on via Zoom, those who are joining us via Facebook, those who are joining us via YouTube. Thank you so much for coming and joining us this morning to do a very important service to our community, and that is to celebrate the life of our brother resistance. And we think that emancipation time is no better time to do that, because none of us can perhaps possibly conceive of emancipation in the future without the presence of brother resistance and his bell, ringing that bell for freedom, ringing that bell for justice. So we chose to start with his song, Middle Passage, which many years ago he penned and chanted, reminding us of the journey that brought us here in the first place. So thank you all so much for participating with us. My name is Zakia Uzoma Wadada. I'm the Executive Chair of the Emancipation Support Committee of Trinidad and Tobago. And we are pleased to, with the collaboration of the Drumline Uprising, to present this celebration of the life of brother resistance to you. So before we move on further in the program, I want us to open with some drumology. You know, just all of this is part of who resistance was, the culture, and this is emancipation time. And you know, emancipation time was very close to his heart. And therefore we must start with the sound of the drums. So we welcome a drumology from Drumline Uprising, one of the institutions he was instrumental in creating. Thank you very much, Drumline Uprising. And this morning, as we continue with the program, I am pleased to read to you the tribute from the Emancipation Support Committee of Trinidad and Tobago. Rhapso is the power of the word, the rhythm of the word, the truth and the light, and therefore pure rhapso is the living experience of the voice. It is the vocal manifestation of the hopes, fears, visions, and aspirations of a people's struggle for true liberation. These are the words of Brother Resistance written in 1986. Emancipation Support Committee of Trinidad and Tobago was indeed truly shocked and saddened by the news of the transition of Lutalo, Makosa, Masimba, known to us all as Brother Resistance. On behalf of the Board of Directors, staff, and members of the ESCTT, we extend our sincere condolences to his family, his friends, his colleagues at the Trinidad and Tobago Unified Calypsonian Organization, of which he was the president, the National Carnival Commission, where he served as a commissioner, the Network Rhythm Band, of which he was a foundation member and lead vocalist, the Network Community Organization and Drumline Uprising, both institutions of which he was a founding member. Born Roy Lewis in East Dry River, the Yoruba, which we call the Yoruba village, where he lived until the time of his transition, Brother Resistance always excelled and demonstrated leadership. As a student of Queen's Royal College, Brother Resistance became renowned for his intense love and commitment to the promotion of the music of Trinidad and Tobago. When, as a young disc jockey, he only played local music and encouraged us as youths of his day to love and party to the songs produced by local artists. His strong advocacy and struggle for at least 50% local music on our radio stations started even while he was at school and continued until the time of his transition. We do hope someone will at last hear his cry. Never mind his love and passion for music, Brother Resistance also excelled academically and earned his first degree at the University of the West Indies, followed by a master's degree in Carnival Studies from the University of Trinidad and Tobago in 2012. At the time of his transition, he was also reading for his PhD from the University of the West Indies. One who truly stood firm for his culture, Brother Resistance also served as Vice President of the Copyright Music Organization of Trinidad and Tobago and the Association of Caribbean Copyright Societies. He was the president of the Writers Union of Trinidad and Tobago, record producer and distributor of network productions, a show promoter and producer, graphic artist, set designer, percussionist, and songwriter. And as I mentioned before, DJ as part of Blockmasters. He was the first manager and general secretary of the Trinidad and Tobago Unified Calypsonian Organization. In 1962, he was awarded the Hummingbird Medal Silver for his contribution to arts and culture in Trinidad and Tobago. In 2014, the Emancipation Support Committee of Trinidad and Tobago presented him with the Keeper of the Tradition Award for his hard work over decades to preserve, teach, and develop the oral tradition. And in 2017, he was inducted into the Queen's Royal College Hall of Honor. Every Emancipation Day, he rang his bell for freedom. He rang his bell for justice. And he led the Network Community Organization and Network Rhythm Band year after year without fail as they jammed the Rapso rhythm, echoing the hopes, fears, the visions, and aspirations of a people's struggle for true liberation. Is what? We will always remember the Rapso soldier for his sterling, rooted, and grounded lifelong contribution to culture and our people's liberation. We thank Brother Resistance for his service, and we would indeed miss him, but we are committed to assist and to continue in building his legacy as much as we can and with whatever opportunities we are presented to do so. So we continue, and now we hear from the, what we would call his anthem, maybe a Rapso anthem of Trinidad and Tobago. And this is what he did. He rang his bell for justice, he rang his bell for freedom on Emancipation morning and on almost every opportunity that he had. So now we are going to hear our Brother Resistance performing with the Network Rhythm Band. So it is an old video when we go back to his performance with the Network Rhythm Band doing Ring the Bell.
a story to tell. Well, it's a long, long time now we fighting for freedom. Victory bound to come. Assemble the people, we sight up the mission, we rock the rhapsodydom. Oh, oh, ring the bell, ring the bell. Ring the bell down there. Ring the bell, ring the bell. Ring the bell down there. Ring the bell for justice. Ring the bell down there. Ring the bell for culture. Ring the bell down there. Ring the bell for freedom. Ring the bell down there. I said to ring up the bell for the rhapsodydom. Ring the bell down there. Ring it all over. Ring it all over. Ring it all over. Ring it all over. Hey. So listen well, I come to deliver this word. Let the voice of the dung press be heard over the world. Let the people's story be told. Well, it's a long, long time now we come out for action. Glory days come down. I come with my bell just to second the motion. Rock the rhapsodydom. Whoa, oh, I ring the bell, ring the bell. Ring the bell down there. Ring the bell, ring the bell. Ring the bell down there. Ring the bell for justice. Ring the bell down there. Ring the bell for culture. Ring the bell down there. Ring the bell for freedom. Ring the bell down there. I said to ring up the bell for the rhapsodydom. Ring the bell down there. Ring it all over. Ring it all over. Ring it all over. Ring it all over. Hey. Bring it in the House of Parliament, bring it in the seat of government, and let it hear, let it hear. Bring it in the House of Congress, bring it in the Buckingham Palace, in the Kremlin and Washington, bring it in the Vatican too, Lord. Oh, oh, I ring the bell, ring the bell. Ring the bell down there. Ring the bell, ring the bell. Ring the bell down there. Ring the bell for justice. Ring the bell down there. Ring the bell for culture. Ring the bell down there. Ring the bell for freedom. Ring the bell down there. I said to ring up the bell for the rhapsodydom. Ring the bell down there. Ring it all over. Ring it all over. Ring it all over. Ring it all over. Hey.
Oh, besides the song, it's such a beautiful memory to see all of those brothers together in their youth. And you know, the alpagat that he was wearing, they actually made and sell those at the shop and the mall. They also produced, you know, the hats and so on. You know, it is this particular video, I'm sure maybe for a lot of you, you know, Mari and Tarega, I'm going to put you back into a different time when, you know, as young people, we so loved our culture in that revolutionary space, you know, and I really want, I know I'm really happy and I hope it brought back beautiful memories for everyone. But we reach at a time where we are now going to begin our tributes from those of us who are here and those of us who would have sent in tributes. And today, I'm very pleased and happy that his brother, Neil Lewis, who has been, you know, the backbone for resistance for all of those years, and his daughter, Nelo, are both here with us, and they are going to be delivering their tributes. So I'm first going to introduce Neil, and when Neil has completed, Nelo will do her tribute. So welcome, Neil. Thank you both for, and Nelo, thank you both for attending. We appreciate you being here with us.
Is what?
Is what?
So those of you who know resistance for a long time know that when you heard that greeting, is what, it meant that resistance was in your space. And you had to listen to what he had to say. So first I want to thank the Emancipation Support Committee for organizing and streaming and putting on this event celebrating the life of Brother Resistance, my brother, and inviting me to speak here today. So thank you for the invitation, Zakia. So in a video recently produced by the Central Bank of Trinidad and Tobago entitled Messages from Lutalo, the governor of the bank, Dr. Alvin Hilaire, referred to resistance as a prince, and that when he walked into a room, you felt his presence. And it's an interesting statement because recently in a chat involving the principal of Queen's Royal College and some old boys who were preparing to make a tribute to Brother Resistance, they made a joke about his original name, which was Roy Lewis. They said, Roy? Roy is the first part of Royal. So that said, I'm really not sure what my parents were thinking when they named him Roy. But if we delve a little further in terms of the name Roy, it has its origins in Anglo-French with Bengal Indian influence, and in fact it means king. All in all, Resistance was a very humble man, and he conquered the world. So let's take a little journey as to what his exploits involved, and a look at his bio. He performed on 5 of the 7 continents of the world, including North America, South America, Asia, Africa, and Europe. But it was in Europe that he really made his mark, with 2 most notable performances. One being the Festival Musical del Mediterraneo in Genoa, Italy. And he was the headline actor on one of the shows there. And in 2006, the World Cup in Germany, where Trinidad and Tobago made their first ever World Cup appearance. Resistance and the network, perhaps band, was not part of the Trinidad contingent, but part of the FIFA Fan Fest entertainment. Another important performance that he always spoke about was being the opening act for Roberta Flack in concert in Central Park, New York, and this was in 1999. But wherever Resistance performed, he conducted workshops and lectures on the culture of Trinidad and Tobago, particularly at universities in the destinations that he would have performed. Resistance has held many prominent roles, including president of the Writers Union of Trinidad and Tobago. He's a board member of the National Association of Libraries in Trinidad and Tobago. He was president of the Copyright Organization of Trinidad and Tobago and has been a long-standing member of that organization. He held the post of General Secretary of the Tobago Unified Calypsonians Organization. And until his passing, he was president of the organization for the past 13 years. He has several publications, including the book Rhapsody Explosion, which was published in 1986 under Carrier Press, and which was nominated for a Caribbean Award. On the dramatic scene, he played the role of Aldrich the Dragon in Earl Lovelace's play, The Dragon Can't Dance, both in 1986 and in 2002. His performance in 2002 allowed him to be nominated for a Cacique Award for that performance. He has several awards, including being named in the University of the West Indies Top 50 Alumni in 2011. He was inducted in the Queen's Royal College Hall of Honor in 2017. And of course, the most prestigious was being awarded the Hummingbird Medal by the government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. He earned a Bachelor of Arts from the University of the West Indies, a Master of Arts from the University of Trinidad and Tobago, and had been working on his PhD at the University of the West Indies. So I've just really scratched the surface of Resistance's achievements. Even with all of that and more, he continued to stay humble. And to emphasize the point about his humility, in his early days when Resistance and the Network Rhapsody Rhythm Band were starting to make their mark, there were many who did not endorse what they were doing. And he was interviewed on a program called Portraits by Dale Colosing. For those of you who are old enough to remember AVN TV. And when he was interviewed in this program, it was revealed that Resistance had a university degree. And he told me that after that interview, people who would pass him silently on the street would now stop in to speak with him, wanting to know him. He never made anyone feel that because he had degrees that he was any better than anyone. So how did Resistance arrive at being Resistance? In our early days as children, August holidays were either spent with our cousins in Point Dolabry, where we had great fun. Our cousins had sugarcane and corn growing in their backyard, and they lived near the beach, so that we would at times go swimming. Other times we would go to Tobago, where my grandmother and mother was from, the beautiful village of Bethel, and where we enjoyed the experience of that other side of our heritage. In primary school, which was Chinipu government in Mova, Resistance, whose name at the time was Roy Lewis, started writing poetry and continued writing, and when he went on to Queen's Royal College. In fact, I'm told that his passing common entrance for Queen's Royal College was a huge deal in the village of Chinipu. I'm 6 years younger than Resistance, and when I joined him at QRC, when he was in sixth form, it was only then that I realized that my brother was the lifeblood of the first 11 football team. He was creating chants to inspire the team on the field during inter-club competition, as well as stenciling t-shirts for supporters. But he truly made his mark when he entered the school's disc jockey competition and won. I'm told that he needed to go with a sobriquet to perform, and his schoolmates said to him, "You always resist everything, so you should go the name Resistance." So by the way, he had been given that name just before I entered Form 1, and so when I entered QRC, all his friends used to call me Young Resistance. So fast forward to his life as a performer, I have to say that our father, George Lewis, deceased, was not really pleased with my brother's decision to choose entertainment industry as a career. And I too, in my early years, did not understand him. I'll always remember him rehearsing a piece called Pan Baby while in the shower, and I could not figure out what he was doing. He eventually won a competition with Pan Baby and went on to represent Trinidad and Tobago at Carifesta 5 in Barbados with this performance. However, our father's view changed when Resistance launched his book, Rhapsody Explosion, at the Central Bank Auditorium, along with performances with the Network Rhapsody Rhythm Band. My parents were guests of honor of the event and were asked to stand and be applauded by the audience during the show. Our parents were two very humble people, George from Dixon Village in St. Vincent, not far from Georgetown and fairly close to the recently erupted La Soufrière volcano, and Iona from Bethel, Tobago. In time, Resistance eventually and officially changed his name in 1992 to Lutalo Makosa Masimba. So when I asked him, what does all those names mean? He said, Resistance Musical Power. So I decided, let me do some research into the meanings of each of these names. So Lutalo is a Ugandan name that means warrior. Mokosa is a Cameroonian style of music. And Masimba is from the Shona language in Zimbabwe and means power. So you see, he really didn't do anything by guess. He always had a reason why he did certain things. As I mentioned earlier, I was 6 years younger than Resistance. So there was always a bit of a generation gap between us. Being older, he was heavily influenced by the 1970 Black Power Revolution and all the global scenes of injustice that was taking place, particularly in South Africa. For me, I was still trying to find myself, but I got closer to him when our father passed in 1989. I started attending his events and developed an even deeper connection to him and his work. His shop on the People's Mall, shop number 49, called Uprising Culture Shop, was the place where Calypsonians would go to release their new music for the upcoming carnival seasons. He would also launch his album Money Mall, and I saw how big his music was and the potential that it had, and helped him move the launch to the Central Bank Plaza. Every artist at Carnival time wanted to be on Resistance's launch. Resistance was also such a visionary that he knew what he wanted and where he wanted his music to go. So he created a media event in 1989 and declared it the National Day of Rapso. The following year, 1990, we held an exhibition at the Heritage Library in Port of Spain on Knox Street, Port of Spain. And the plan was to have performances in the evening, but unfortunately, or fortunately, electricity went and we had to beg City Hall to use their hall for the event. The hall was almost filled to capacity with about 350 people. And patrons had the opportunity of seeing performances by Kindred, Shantwell, Homefront, even before releasing their works, even before they made their way into the Christie Caravan and started to carve their own careers. Resistance would eventually grow the celebration to the Festival of Rapso and the Oral Traditions, and it went from a one-day event to a full month with workshops at the public libraries and schools across the country, signature events like Children's Storytime, the Street Procession, Breaking New Ground. Breaking New Ground was an event where workshops would be developed to hone their skills and be presented on a show. Raging Rapso would feature young new artists who were now making their way. And of course, the big show Rapso Night, which was held at the Spectacular Forum. When we launched our first Rapso Night show, artists kept coming to perform. We didn't really have an artist list per se, so people just kept coming to perform. We also did not have an MC, so I had to fill in the role. I had never gone on stage before, but there was no one else. And in speaking to Omari about my first MC gig, he said, boy, Resistance have a way of putting in roles that you don't know and you didn't expect that you would be and end up into. Future Rapso Night shows would attract the biggest names in the entertainment industry in Trinidad and Tobago, including the likes of Super Blue, Andrea Tanker, Ras Shortia in the Love Circle, and David Rugger, just to name a few. Of course, we cannot speak about Resistance without talking about Emancipation Morning. He would lead the Network Rapso Rhythm Band every year in the street procession, ringing his bell for freedom and justice. Ring it all over. When you saw him on that day, you could see and feel his joy. He would provide the oration as significant landmarks along the route. His music, Middle Passage, which describes the humane voyage of our fathers made, and Big Dirty Lie, Kiss Columbus Goodbye, should be made standards for the emancipation celebrations going forward from today. But more importantly, Resistance will always say that I am because we are. There'd be no brother Resistance without the Network Rapso Rhythm Band. I want to repeat that. Resistance will always say, I am because we are. There would be no brother Resistance without the Network Rapso Rhythm Band. But the Resistance had a way of making strong connections with children and young people. The Children's Storytime event was one of his pet projects. We would get sponsors to pay for tickets for children from orphanages and some of the homes to attend. He would also support the Reading in Key event launched by my wife from the Holistic Music School. His relationship with Holistic would continue to grow with the eventual collaboration and performances of the Network Rapso Rhythm Band and the school. The Network Rapso Rhythm Band played alongside musicians from this music school at an event called Mother Earth, which was hosted at Bishop Anthony High School some years ago. He would go on to perform with Holistic X, which are mainly high school students, in a show called Dingole at the Zen nightclub, which celebrated the life of the mighty Shadow. And then at several concerts at the country club called Rhythms of Love. His work with the youthful band would continue and come to a crescendo when they were invited to perform the song Nation Time at the Prime Minister's Independence Concert at Napa in 2016, and then also at Carifesta 14 and in 2019 on the main stage of the Savannah. He had such an impact on these young people that every time they had a rehearsal, they always wanted to end the evening with the song Nation Time. He was truly a charismatic individual and impacted young people and never said no to a request to interact and inspire them. There were many times I took him to our alma mater, QRC, to speak to students, with one occasion being the entire school population at an assembly. I've come across several people who told me that when they were much younger, growing up, that his music had an impact on their lives, sometimes during periods of challenge. He was diagnosed with COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disorder, in 2015, which was the result of many years of smoking cigarettes. He was getting regular treatment, and I began managing his health appointments since that time. He was going well until about 2 months ago when a scan revealed that cancer had developed in his right lung. The warrior that resistance was is that he faced it head on and started treatment. But he continued his usual routines of attending to the business of Tuku and NCC, and even attending meetings up to the week before his passing. He was also putting in the work on his PhD at UWI. In fact, board members commented that the week before he passed, they sat in a 5-hour face-to-face meeting. They were saying that this is a meeting they didn't want to hold virtually, so they decided to have it face-to-face, a 5-hour face-to-face meeting, where resistance laid out what he thought should be the direction we should be taking with our culture. They said he was in ripping form. So it was only after feeling unwell a couple of days before that we took him to West Shore Medical on Tuesday night, 13th of July. And in the space of about a couple of hours, he left us. Resistance had the best medical care throughout all of his challenges. And if he were here, he would extend his deepest gratitude to his entire medical team. He had built up such a great relationship with all of his doctors that they all reached out to me to extend their condolences. So his spirit will always be radiant, alive, and will continue to live in everyone that he touched during his life, and will continue to touch through his music and words in the future. So according to his lyrics of Mudupe, I lift up my heart and say, thanks and praises to you. Whoa. You walk with the ancestors as you walk with me today. Take my hand, show me the way. So resistance, now you are with the ancestors. And his lyrics from Glory of Kings, I walk with the glory of kings. You are one of those kings. We'll always remember your words in your piece called A Luta Continua. The struggle goes on. Victory bound to come. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Neil. And now we will hear from Nelo.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. I appreciate this. So I just wanted to share a little bit about who my dad was as a person, because I know that everyone knows the public side of him, but that daddy, that father, it's like I feel really blessed to know that I had been raised by someone like him. I think my father was someone who was always late, but always on time, right? So he didn't make every school appearance when I was younger. He lived in England, but the ones that were most important, it was as if he just appeared, right? My schoolmates, when he passed, they all remembered when we had a Mother's Day concert in second form, and he wasn't there. One of my friends was dancing to Mother Earth, and the show had started, and my father just walked into the theater, and everyone was just like, whoa, right? Absolutely amazed in that moment. And he just wasn't sure he would make it in time, but he just appeared. And that was something not only my classmates remember, but their moms thought it was like such a blessing that he came to share that moment with them. And that was kind of a representation of who he was. I can't think of a moment I've ever disappointed my father. And if I did, I don't think he's ever said it, right? He's always been that champion, right? So there are times where I think I know I did something shifty, and he would be like, well, if you know you did your best. And I used to be like, yo, this guilt trip then, like, and then I start telling on myself, right? And I'm like, okay, so I think I could have do better, right? I think I could have handled it better. And he'd be like, true? And I'm like, yeah, so let me explain. And I try to go through it, but there was never tongue lashing. There was never, you have to do it this way, right? He actually never told me how to do anything. He just asked me those questions that would have me thinking about what would be the best way to approach it, right? So like I always had that. I remember when I was in probably first or second year, I wanted to be a calypsonian. He was like, really? I said, yes. He said, you want to be a singer or a calypsonian? So I want to be a calypsonian. He said, well, you have to write your own song. And I'm like, really? You can't write the song? And he was like, no, if you want to be a calypsonian, you have to write your own song. I said, okay. And I distinctly remember writing, the words were, mommy, mommy, come and see, carnival come for you and me. And I think I must have been off key, out of timing, everything else. And he was like, well, you have to put a little oi in the song. That's how you keep your timing. And literally, he would come and we'd say, mommy, mommy, come and see, oh, oh. And it was like every night I'm singing this song with this oi. Daddy said, put our oi in it, put our oi in it, you know? And we used to go to the mall, and at the shop, I remember him sitting and saying to Super and all around, and they were all there. It was a Friday. And he said, she writes a calypso, you know. And they said, she writes her own song, so it's a calypsonian. And I'm like, yes. And they were, sing it for us. And it was an amazing thing to have all these great people that you see on posters and in commercials sitting there going, well, you can't dance like you're singing in the choir. You had to move your hand. You had to do this. You know, you got all these great lessons from these great people, right? But for him, it was just like, my daughter write her own song, you know, right? Like there was a pride behind it. And that was something that I got no matter what, you know? So that's a thing that I think I can't really explain to other people when I say it to them, that my father is perfectly imperfect, right? He loved each of us the way we needed to be loved. So we never felt like one person was more important than the other, one person was loved more. There were no favorites. We were all loved in a way that we felt we were the only child, the only one that mattered. But at the same time, we knew it was all of us, you know? And I think those are the things that made him such a beautiful spirit, right? I know, like I tell people I have my Paul Kings Douglas moment where I'm bragging about my dad, but my daddy is like the best daddy, you know? And I love the fact that I have been able to grow without even realizing it. I've grown into doing things that he's done. So like when I listen to people talk about the things that he does, I'm like, wow, I think I'm very much like my dad, right? Like I used to try to be as smart as my uncle, and I've said this before. I worked really hard so that I can have a conversation with my uncle and understand every word that he says, right? But I feel absolutely blessed that I was raised by someone who taught me humility just from his actions and the way he treated others. There was never a time that he was too busy to speak to people. And part of growing up being his daughter was understanding that people will stop and they would need to have the conversation now, right? And you'd be like, seriously? But then you figured out that was part of who he was. That was part of who that spirit was, right? And at some point, it morphed into not just being with daddy, but being with resistance, right? You walk in these streets with resistance. That's a whole scenario. Like, you have to be ready for that, you know? And I think my proudest moment of my dad was Summer Stage 99. I had just moved to the US and he had talked about the Roberta Flack concert, and we said, we're gonna go. And of course, Trinidadians are there with their flags. And there was a group of tourists that came from Germany, about 25 of them, racing into Central Park. Did the show start? Did the show start? And we were like, no, not yet. And they all dug in their bags and pulled out these Trinidad flags, right? And this one lady had a bell. And we were like, what is going on? She said, we just came for resistance, you know. And I was like, wait, what? Like, I was so confused and amazed at the same time. And from the time he hit the stage, you would swear that it was like the greatest singer in the world. They just made a train straight to the front of the stage. They were screaming, singing every song. And I was like, wow. And in that moment, I realized that my dad wasn't just a person that his community loved, but he was definitely a person that the world loved. And somehow he wasn't just the voice for people at home, but he was the voice for people everywhere. So I just wanted to share all about my dad. But I wanted people to know that besides all the things that they see, he is such a beautiful and amazing father and friend and mentor. He's everything that you would want in a parent.
Thank you so much, Neil. Thank you so much, Nilo. It is so beautiful to hear from his family who has shared him with us, because, you know, once people become public personalities, you know, there's a sacrifice that is made by the family, because, you know, he has to share his time, both with family and, of course, and with the public. And the public tends to be very demanding on his commitment to the public. So thank you so much, Neil and Nilo, for sharing Brother Resistance with us. And, you know, as Neil spoke about the launch of his book, Rhapsody Explosion, you know, I was reading where part of his speech, in that speech, he was thanking, you know, all that had influenced his life up to that particular point in time. And what struck me as being very interesting, he identified two institutions. And one of those institutions, he said, was the I Room at the University of the West Indies. And those of you who are here who know about the I Room would know what I'm speaking about. And I felt really good that he saw that as an institution that helped shape him, because, you know, the I Room has never been the same since after our year, you know. And I was fortunate to be one of the two females that regularly occupy that I Room. And, you know, it's really, so that really touched my heart, because that was a very special space for us who were there at the university. And then he also identified Block Masters as an institution. Ever since I have known Resistance, I have known Karega, you know, because they were almost inseparable. They were always together. Karega and the brother who owned the equipment, I don't recall his name, part of Block Masters, Karega might remember. But he saw these two critical, you know, engagement in his life as institutions. And that's what I appreciated, and how it shaped him in addition to all of the other things. And it's just to indicate how rooted and grounded he was as a brother, and remained rooted and grounded throughout his life. Thank you so much, Nilo. Thank you so much, Neil. And to show you how he felt about this existing in this time from a long time ago, we are going to play for you his video of Can't Take That. His cry for justice for his people.
I walk my finger to the bone for my country. I squeeze blood out a stone for my country. The people in authority mashing up my family. So much of years that we sweat and toil, let's bleed blood and tears we till the soil, but we still suffering today. And the children can't see the way. Hey, I wake up in the morning and it's unemployment. I can't take that. Wake up in the morning and it's more retrenchment. I can't take that. When they want to stop all this humiliation, I can't take that. Wake up in the morning, more frustration. I can't take that. No, ain't taking that. So people ain't taking that. 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 Hey, I love to live, but my life is a scramble. I had to teach to put a bread on my table. You mock democracy, linking up my dignity. So much a hungry mouth is to feed it. We cry blood just to sow the seed, but we still suffering in pain. And we children feeling the strain. I wake up in the morning and it's unemployment. I can't take that. Wake up in the morning and it's more retrenchment. I can't take that. When they go just stop all this humiliation, I can't take that. I wake up in the morning and it's more frustration. I can't take that. No, ain't taking that. So people ain't taking that. 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 Hey. From the belly of the nation, you mash the corn and you cause aggravation. Life under poverty is endless agony. And after all that we sacrifice, dog if we dinner and we pay the price, but we must get justice today, so we children could see the way. Hey, wake up in the morning and it's unemployment. I can't take that. Wake up in the morning and it's more retrenchment. I can't take that. When they go to stop all this humiliation, I can't take that. Wake up in the morning and it's more frustration. I can't take that. No, ain't taking that. So people ain't taking that. 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 Hey.
And taking that, so the people ain't taking that, and that continues to be our struggle and continuous cry for freedom and justice. Thank you so much for the music, brother resistance, and the messages in the music. So we move on, and we think this is an appropriate time to welcome the members of the Network Rhythm Band. So we have two with us today to bring live greetings, and Karega Mandela and Sister Ava. And it is my pleasure now to welcome no other than Karega Mandela. And I think that is, you know, a brother of his sisters by you know, another mother. You know, those two have been inseparable. And I know that this must be very challenging for him. But welcome, Karega. Thank you so much for joining us.
Greetings, TNT, and all participants for this program. The beautiful day in Trinidad, enough love for the life of our existence. And I see myself on the screen and the family.
Yeah, but you are there. We are here, and you are focused. You are the one that is there. Yes.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Yes, go ahead.
Greetings, Trinidad, everyone, wherever participants following this program. Enough love, enough vibration. What time it is? Rapso time.
Rapso time.
So who is brother resistance? Who is brother resistance? Brother resistance is a warrior to the fullest extent. Who is brother resistance? Brother resistance slogan is stand firm for your culture. Stand firm for your culture. Who is brother resistance? Brother resistance was someone who had education and high priority, not only for himself, but he spent enough time in buying books and things for children going to school, who parents might be in another trust. Brother resistance spent time to promote and educate youth in the community. Who is brother resistance? Brother resistance is someone who stands firm every time, no matter what the situation is, he stands firm, and he's a righteous brother, always willing to commit to organization. He's been to so much organization at one time, I just can't understand. I said, where he's getting the right songs, but you're always in some meetings. He said, man, there is work to be done by, and somebody got to do it. But he's a hardworking brother, a brother who spends enough time educating people, informing people, bringing a sense of hope and direction for enough people in Trinidad and Tobago and the world. But it's something that brother took and band from Corey Street to whatever and carried it around the world. As Neil said earlier, he said, there is no rebel resistance without network Rapso and band. And when he said that, he really meant that, because the band was a center of his life. He stayed work hard to promote the Rapso. Every time, spend enough months in Europe, making negotiations for the band to come and talk. You spend enough time there doing the work, doing the workshops in the university and so on. But resistance is somebody who always dedicated to what he does. Who is brother resistance? Brother resistance is like the Guyo, the midnight rubber, all that wrap up in one. But resistance is someone who loves progress, who loves to see people build up themselves and make progress. As you say, no matter where you come from, is where you're going is the journey. No matter where you come from, is where you end up is the journey. So no matter where you come from, everybody is somebody. Everybody is somebody. Who is brother resistance? Who is brother resistance? Brother resistance is a Chantuel. Brother resistance is a warrior. Brother resistance is someone who loves Trinidad and Tobago. He had enough of us to stay out in Europe. He had enough of us to stay out in Europe and promote the Rapso from out in Europe. But he said, no, man, I just want to defend the red, white, and black. And I ain't turning back to look for the Union Jack. And that's a fact. So brother resistance had opportunities to stay out in Europe. But usually once around 3 months or 4 months or 5 months, whatever time it is. But knowing that you have to come back to Trinidad and Tobago to defend the red, white, and black. So brother resistance is somebody who stands firm for roots and culture and look on part of our tales. Brother resistance is, remember I say was, is because his work will continue and his name will live on. Brother resistance is somebody who dedicated to Trinidad and Tobago and dedicated to African people and African vibration as a whole, but love all people all around the world. Brother resistance, I want to say thank you for knowing you. Thanks for the work you have to be done, and thanks for the work you already done. We say we give thanks. Enough love, enough vibration, stay strong. With the ancestors as they walk. Just keep on that smile in the face, brother. And thanks for knowing you. And to the network of them band, I say thanks on behalf of the network of them band for the space we shared for many, many years. What time it is?
Rapso time.
What time it is? Rapso time. Who is the resistance? Who is the resistance? The resistance is a warrior, a warrior, a warrior, a warrior. The resistance is. The resistance is. The resistance is. Thank you very much, brother.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Karega. I can hear some of that being put to rhythm, boy. You gotta put that rhythm and bring her up. So thanks a lot. Yes, all it was now is the rhythm.
Thanks again.
Yes, one heart, my brother. So now we have Sister Ava.
Yes, I must give thanks for this opportunity to commemorate Brother Resistance. I'm going to speak in the areas of the Drumline Uprising. The way I know Resistance is really roots, because he come down to roots. He come bare feet when it comes to the Drumline family. Now, I has joined the Drumline family in 2008. They had just moved from Shacon Street and going up to Shafford Court, and that's behind or in his yard itself. So it was a big thing for resistance to have that space there in front of the harp. In the back of it is Quarry Street, you know. So much stories are told with the ancestors and stuff around that area. So Drumline Uprising is not just a souvenir culture shop. People on the streets call it social development or a community center, because soon as the doors open, we get a flooding of persons always wanting some form of assistance, and we try to accommodate them. But I want to speed forward a bit. One of the things that I want to do, I have a list of stuff that we talk about. We were already in meetings to make manifest around the drumline, but I want to highlight one. And this is, resistance always had a plan to get the members, the faces of the members, and place them on the Oxford Street side of Drumline Uprising, Stafford Courts. He wanted this big mural up there. And he said, are we going to make this happen? You know, I said, how are we going to make this happen? You know, that's HEC building. I will have to ask for permission. And he said, permission from who? I said, I'll have to write something to ask HEC for permission to put this up. You want to write a letter for me? I asked him that. He said, no, I ain't writing that letter, you know. I said, but why? He said, because I is resistance. So I said, okay then. And we proceed in doing the meeting with Christopher Kwamina, Makemba Kunle, and we talk about how we're going to do this thing and how they are going to mentor the younger artists in doing the faces and the pictograph to put on the wall. We don't want to put it directly on the wall. So they suggested that we mount it. So in event something go wrong or it have to be removed, we could take it off and place it somewhere else. But that is the place itself resistance wants it to be. And I am going to follow up. We are in meetings still with that, and we're going to get this happening. And my short contribution, because there's so much I can say now, but I know we invited loved ones to come on this platform and say something. So I would already want to take up much time, but I'm going to say we are going to make this happen. We're going to do that painting on the wall with the members of the network. You will hear from us. You will hear, I'll have to do some fundraisers to get it done, but you indeed are going to hear from me further on. So that is my little contribution, resistance. I know you're there. You're heading towards the land of the ancestors. And I know that you're going to journey well. Everyone will say sleep in peace. I will say rise in power. Continue on your journey. Don't forget us. I know you won't forget us. Ring the bell a little harder for those who cannot hear. But I give thanks for your life here. Your destiny have been fulfilled. Your destiny have been fulfilled. May our destiny be fulfilled. Ashe?
Thank you very much, Ava. And you know, when we were playing the bell and I looked at the youth of resistance, and I suppose Neil can tell us if it is the same bell, and it means that that bell have some good age and some good energy. So we have to find a way to keep that bell, keep it ringing, and have it in really as beautiful and special space and take it out for special occasions, because that is indeed, you know, a sacred and very spiritual tool that was used by resistance, as we know it being used, you know, within, you know, our spiritual tradition as well. So thank you so much, Ava. So now we're going to hear song that was done by Ava when she received the Spirit of the Tradition Award. And she really thanked Brother Resistance, who was present as well, for his contribution to her as an artist. And then we will, following her, we would have also a presentation from one of the Rapso artists who looked like a good little young man behind the drums when we saw the Network Rhythm Band. That is Overdread. And you would see how, you know, how time has passed. But we are now going to hear from both of them. Thank you for listening.
This is Yoruba Village. Aboyo, Aboyo, Ibo, Shishe. You know, I don't really want to talk too much. I really want to do the piece that my mother gave to me this year. But I want to thank a few people. First, I want to thank my immediate family because they have been through a tough, a rough time within my work. My work is not no money in it. And sometimes I have to wonder where to get food the next day. But Eldumare always provided. So I want to thank you guys for standing there with me. Then I want to say that there would be no me without you. Everyone I look at here, you have contributed to me achieving this award. So give yourself a vibration. Annabelle, I want to say a very, very special thanks to my mentor, the man, I just say the man of the moment for me because I thought I was a Jamaican. I was putting on reggae like that until I see Brother Resistance and the Network Rhythm Band on the TV. And Brother Resistance, I just want to give thanks that you have stood on my side all this time. And now you see I have a Drumline production here right now, so give them a vibration. So again, I'm going to say give thanks, and I'm going to go straight into song, right? Yeah, Igunde Majuba Timboleo. Yeah, Gunde Majuba Timboleo. Yeah, Gunde Majuba Timboleo. Walewa igun walewa, walewa igun walewa, walewa igun walewa, oh walewa, walewa igun walewa, walewa igun walewa, walewa igun walewa. I have transcended to the realm of a higher being. I give you my ashe to unlock the unforeseen. As my life is decoded, you will find yourself. Don't take your blessings and put it on a shelf. I know you're hurting and the pain was so deep, but we didn't come here to turn stone. One day we have to sleep, and we can't take nothing from this material world. Is how we live and how we love. Our stories will be told soon. Rise up, my daughter, I am by your side. On every step you take, you will see me through your eyes. Rise up, my daughter, let your voice be heard and carry your message by the power of the good. Rise up, my daughter, keep your ori clear. Always have faith, cause those forces always near. Shango Babawa, Shango Olato, Shango Babawa, Olodo Kabi. Yoruba Village, let me hear you. Shango Babawa, Shango Olato, Shango Babawa, Olodo Kabi is you. Shango Babawa, Shango Olato, Shango Babawa, Olodo Kabi is you. Don't worry too much. never care. Step by step you take and walk it out no fear. Pick up your armor, your sword and your shield. Get ready for battle. The truth will be revealed. Choose your grounds carefully, not every war you fight and maintain balance. There is wrong and there is right. So rise up, my daughter. I am by your side. And every step you take, you will see me through your eyes. Rise up, my daughter. Let your voice be heard and carry your message by the power of the word. Rise up, my daughter. Keep your army clear and always have faith, cause those forces always near. Shango Babawa, Shango Olodo, Olodo, Shango Babawa, Olodo, Kabiesi. Shango Babawa, Shango Olodo, Shango Babawa, Olodo, Kabiesi. Elina Mapala Goaye, she was born in me, and I will stand up firm and lift your legacy. So rise up, my daughter. I am by your side, and every step you take, you will see me through your eyes. Rise up, my daughter. Let your voice be heard and carry your message by the power of the word. Rise up, my daughter. Keep your army clear. Cover your head, cause those forces always near. Shango Babawa, Shango Babawa, Shango Babawa, Kabiesi. Shango Babawa, Shango Babawa, Shango Babawa, Kabiesi. Aja Raja, Naraja Kabaile. Aja Raja, Naraja Kabaile. Let me see the energy. Let me see the energy. This is our time to celebrate. Right now we are losing our young men through violence, black on black crime. But they are not the real bandits. They are not the real killers. They are not the real murderers. We have to look within self. And if we can't fix it with policing, we have to fix it through our ancestors. Somebody say, yeah, yeah. We have to find a remedy and a source through our ancestors. Say, yeah, yeah. Shango Babawa, Shango Olato, Shango Babawa, Kabiesi. Shango Babawa, Shango Olato, Shango Babawa, Kabiesi. Walewa igun walewa, walewa igun walewa, walewa igun walewa, oh walewa, walewa igun walewa, walewa igun walewa, walewa igun walewa, oh walewa, walewa igun walewa, walewa igun walewa, walewa igun walewa, oh walewa. Yes.
Thank you very much, Alva. And we pray that the Gungun, which is the Yoruba tradition, are the protectors, the defenders, those responsible, the energy responsible for our ancestors, that they welcome our brother with open arms. You know, and has been said before, he will be going to Orun and the Orishas would meet him with the words, well done, son. Your work was well done and your legacy is one of which you should be proud. We will move on now to one of the original members of the Network Rhythm Band, a poet in his own right, and let us hear now from Oba Dread.
Yo, Mr. Oxford, pay attention to the generation of today, because this generation of today come to lead the way. Listen, these words that you hear were intended for your ear. I don't want to hear that you're living in fear. I'm a little youth man, black and proud, living in the ghetto and I don't fuss no from. Checking words and meaning as I go along my way, but when I meet the word black, I get hard. I say, generation come, generation go, but this generation come to really let you know. Mr. Oxford, I say you better think back. We want to know the definition, meaning of black, Mr. Oxford. I tell you here what we say, you have to write your dictionary over today, Mr. Oxford. I say you better think back. We want to know your definition, meaning of black, Mr. Oxford. I tell you here what we say, you have to write your dictionary over today. Yeah, have to. You have to write it over today. Black is beautiful, we acknowledge that, but through the cradle of time, you try to hide that, but black is the writing on the wall. Moses, Abraham, David and all, even Daniel in the lion's den, my friend, that is black heritage, we just teach you again. Black is the night, green is the grass, blue is the water when the sunlight pass, brown is the ground that you're standing on, but black is the liquid that you draw from the brown to keep the energy in your city and your tongue. So Mr. Oxford, I say you better think back. We want to know the definition, meaning of black, Mr. Oxford. Hear what we say, you have to write your dictionary over today, Mr. Oxford. I say you better think back. We want to know the definition, meaning of black, Mr. Oxford. I tell you, hear what we say, you have to write your dictionary over today. Really like to know. Yo. No. Black is the color that you really have to wear to stand the little heat that linger in the air. Black is the veil that they place on your eyes so you could see the moon and the stars in the sky. Deep in your hibernation, and when you shut down your eyes to the nation. Black is what you see and then you gain your energy through the fabrics of time, the shackles that you place in the mind and the words that we use really keep we confined. But black is the board that was standing in the hall where you learn your literature, your mathematics and all that geography you know. History will show through the blackboard. That is how you really know. So Mr. Oxford, I say you better think back. We want to know the definition, meaning of black, Mr. Oxford. Tell you here what we say, you have to write your dictionary over today. Listen to the generation of today. You fool my generation, you fool generation upon generation, but this generation, black is beautiful, ain't it? Black lives matter. Peace out.
Thank you so much, Oba. You know, if our brothers' dream of having 50% local music comes to a reality and we have to continue to keep up that struggle, wouldn't it be so amazing for our young people to continue to hear the beautiful messages coming out of these sounds with enough rhythm for you to still move and dance and have a time? You know, let's try to let our children and our young people be exposed to the positive, strong messages that comes out of the songs of the Rapso soldiers and so many of our artists, you know, who really devote their time and effort to using their voice to bring those positive messages to us. So we have to continue that fight so that we can have our music 50% at least of the time on our radio stations. So now we move on to just a short presentation that highlights some of the tributes that were made to Brother Resistance since his transition. It's not all, but it says just in about a minute or two, we want to share with you some of those tributes, and you will see some images of him, some of which some of you may not have seen for a long time. So let's share.
Hear my meditation, O Lord, Jah. For in you do I put my trust. I say they can't choke me down, but they never stop try. Taking bread from my table, putting water in my eye. But I stand up strong, man, I never said that.
By the grace of the Most High,
Jah Rastafari.
by the grace of the Most High,
Jah Rastafari.
Jah never fail me yet, never fail me yet, Jah never fail me.
Jah never fail me.
Jah never fail me yet, never fail me yet, Jah never fail me yet.
Jah never fail me.
Jah never fail me yet.
Jah love, give me life, give me salvation, give me strength, give me courage and determination. Jah love is my guide and protection, my pride, my power and my inspiration.
Jah never fail me yet, never fail me yet, Jah never fail me yet.
Jah never fail me.
Jah never fail me yet, never fail me yet, Jah never fail me yet.
Jah never fail me.
Jah never fail me yet.
And I will serve the Lord Jah. He is my refuge and my fortress. My God, in him will I trust. Surely he shall deliver me from the hands of my enemies and from the perilous pestilences. And I shall serve the Lord Jah with gladness. I shall come before his presence with the power of the word. For in the beginning was the word, and the word was with God, and the word was God. Jah Rastafari. Jah Rastafari. They can't choke me down, but they never stop try. Taking bread from my table, putting water in my eye. But I stand up strong, man, I never said that.
By the grace of the Most High,
Jah
by
Rastafari.
the grace of the Most High,
Jah Rastafari.
Jah never fail me yet, never fail me yet, Jah never fail me yet.
Jah never fail me.
Jah never fail me yet, never fail me yet, Jah never fail me yet.
Jah never fail me.
Jah never fail me yet.
Thank you. And the beautiful song, Jah Never Fail Me Yet. You know, another one of the beautiful songs of Brother Resistance. You know, such a beautiful and soothing song, comforting song. Thank you so much again, Brother Resistance, for the music. And I hope that some of those images, yes, it may have made us feel sad, but it also brought back a smile to our faces as we remember some of the occasions and even some of the beautiful things that were said of Brother Resistance. So we move on now to members of the Rapso fraternity. And we have a message from Brother Book, Omari Ashby, who is here live with us, Mark Nottingham, who is live here with us. So we will first start with the recorded message from Brother Book.
You could study.
Celebrating the life of Lutalo, Makosa, Masimba, Brother Resistance. Yes, well, Brother Book, what acquainted with Brother Resistance at the Coal Concrete Network up Quarry Street, Israel. Now, in the headquarters of Quarry Street, wasn't just Rapso poetry and Rapso music. It had carvings going on, little shoemaking, painting and so on. But I also got acquainted with the Resistance when he was attending UWI. and they organized an eye room. Now in this eye room, it had people who were not students at UE, but what the resistance and his brethren and sisters were organizing was to show the relationship between the community and the University of Higher Learning. Now in this eye room, it had a Gestapo machine. Now this machine we used to type our rhapsodies, our rhapsody poetry, because it was a Gestapo we were turning and printing, right? And we also had progressive discussions on the community. We also used the Gestapo machine to print pamphlets and information on progressive community activities. We could distribute in the communities to get a better gathering. But at that time, the community and UWI was real buzzing. Also at that point in time, Bullsong Steel Band was performing, was practicing, that was located in the university. Okay? Now, I am, but the resistance used to encourage me very much to do my writing. He said, "Brother Book, you can write. Why don't you join the Writers Union? We will get a little more inspiration and you'll write some more." So he encouraged me to join the Writers Union. We joined the Writers Union, where it ended up where resistance became the president, and I was the treasurer. Within the Writers Union, we organized something called SCEP. Now that was a school education program. At that period of time, Belmont Junior Sec was where we used to go and have meetings. Right? So we went to some schools in Belmont and used the RAPSO as an educational tool to try to push the idea to the ministry that it could use culture within education. Now, the St. Joseph Road Youth Movement, which I was I'm a foundation member, and the network RAPSO Rhythm Band, where the resistance is a foundation member. Now, that brings us tighter together because St. Joseph Road Youth Movement used to organize a stage and an audience for East Dry River performers. People who now coming out to perform, we used to get them our audience then, so that if they get their first jitters on the block in the community, and Network RAPSO Rhythm Band was a permanent fixture on that show. Now, Brother Resistance, you can't be wrong, Brother Resistance, and as a lazy fella, he always pushing you to do something because he's a natural worker himself, right? So he keep pushing me. He said, "Look now, man." He said, "Brother Book, you could write. Why you don't produce a booklet?" I take his advice, and I produced a booklet entitled The Optician. I produced this booklet here. He is the man encouraged me to produce a booklet to expose my writing some more. Right? Now, within the Writers Union, resistance ended up going to London, where he lived in London for a while. Now, in 1987, he organized an international dub poetry festival, and he invited the St. Joseph Road Youth Movement. Well, St. Joseph Road Youth Movement accepted the invitation, and I, by the book, represented the organization as a RAPSO poet. Now, that move was a move he made now to give me international exposure. That was the type of person resistance was. And resistance in London at that point in time, he set up a shop, a culture shop, because he ain't making joke with economics neither. So anything you want from the Caribbean, you could come from any part of London and All Saints Road, and you could get your cultural items there. Whether it's calabash bags, wherever you want to know about reggae music, wherever you want to know about Kaisu music, right? And due to that, Resistance organized for me to visit London twice, where I went on a United Kingdom tour. Right? Now, these sort of activities is what made I and Resistance come closer together, and we had a long and glorious relationship. Now, Resistance always used culture as the main thing. Culture, we say, well, was in the bowels, in the whole being, it had culture, because you could share the importance of the steel band movement. And within the importance of the steel band movement, it shows you a die-hard desperados. Right? It shows you the importance in Kaisu. We end up the president of Tuku. And you also show you as an entrepreneur. We had a stall on the People's Mall. Now, within all those scenes, I always in contact with Brother Resistance. And Brother Resistance, he was always a cultural ambassador. He always considered himself as a foot soldier. But we know Brother Resistance was a general. He was an academic, an intellectual, a general, but he always called himself a foot soldier. So that is my contribution, celebrating the life of Brother Resistance. May he rest in eternal peace, my long-lasting brethren. Brother Resistance.
Sorry. Thank you so much, Brother Book. You know, it was so beautiful to hear from you. We continue to wish you health and strength, and may the blessings of the Orishas continue to be with you. Thank you so much. Now we are going to move on to Omari Ashby, who is going to bring greetings.
Yeah, greetings, everybody. Pleasure to be here. We give thanks to the Emancipation Support Committee for this recognition. We give thanks to the Drumline. We give thanks to those of you who come together to take in the vibration as we mark and celebrate the life of, Lutalo Masimba. My experience with Resistance, when I start, first of all, hearing his music. I remember hearing Dancing Shoes on the radio. My mind being blown, what is this? Because of course, I'm young at that time, probably early teens. And I grew up around music, so I always loved Kaiso and stuff, but of course I'm hearing everything else. I'm hearing all the rap coming, all the dance, all that. But this music that burst through, someone like yourself, so I take notice. And years later, when we meet in person, he and Carrega Mandela would become serious mentors in my life, taking me into manhood, really. And standing in the gap in a way that perhaps my parents couldn't, because, a young person, the last thing that they see their parents as is cool or somebody they could listen to. The last person you want to listen to is their parent. So it's always important to have people in the community who would stand in the gap and kind of fulfill a position of an elder brother, a good brethren who could give advice. And in almost every aspect of my life as a young man, Resistance would be. In the later half, I would hear that call. You would say, Rastaman. And I would answer him, Rastaman. And with that, anything could happen from there. You could either go to Rastaman, we have a cultural emergency, or Rastaman, nice one, I hear you on the radio, this, but but that would always be the entry to our conversation as brethren. And as my mentor, the magic with resistance is he wouldn't make you feel that is that he doing now, that he mentoring you now. He would just take you on an easy journey and show you things. One of the markers I want to make my part about here is resistance, the performer, because being in the presence of greatness in so many directions, we could get lost in how we recognize, what pattern we recognizing. Because as an academic, he was a boss. As a general human being, he was a boss. As somebody who looking after the community, he was a boss. But let me tell you something. You see, as a performer, and you feel that Trinidad and Tobago understand the mastery of that brother. And I get a chance to see it in some of them early Rhapsody nights, but it really, my eyes really get open when the couple times we travel on tour together. Once was to Germany, and one of the most memorable ones was to Northern California in a concert they call Reggae on the River. Now picture this, right? Kindred and Brother Resistance from Trinidad and Tobago in the middle of this massive reggae fest. But I write about it, they come to hear reggae. The Ghetto Youth United, which is Bob Marley Chiron, they had a big part to play in that year. Shaggy, Steel Pulse, Beres Hammond. And in the middle of this thing, they dropped these Trinbagonians doing this thing called Rhapsody. And of course, are young and up full and everything else. So Kindred run on the stage and we destroy it. So much so that I tell myself, oh, good. What Resistance go do, boy? This is pressure here. We leave nothing, You leave nothing. Let me tell you something. When Resistance climb on that stage, I feel nobody remember that Kindred was there. Because he take that place apart. It was the most, it was a lesson in performance. And one of the things you could, when you're young, you have one speed, everything had to be action and be thing and so we went on, but Resistance took them on a journey that went from very calm to heights to back down. And in that moment, now you're talking about something like 20,000 people in this space, right? And in this moment, Brother Resistance did Mother Earth. And picture this tall Rasta man on stage. And he said, bend down and touch Mother Earth. So you have 20,000 people going down to the ground in front of, that imagery, and it's the command at the stage. And I tell people, how you know that Resistance destroy everything in that performance is after you have a international press conference with all people all writing, and they gave Kindred about 3 questions, and the rest of the 45 minutes was for Resistance now. And that is how powerful, and let me tell you something, we mash up, but we mash up like he. And so it was like more things in life. He really showed us that day that is not always about being up the constant pace. He slowed the thing down, he carry it up, and really and truly, I kind of use that as a metaphor in my life, because at times when you're in the struggle, when you're fighting out here in this Gideon, you could want to be always in this, but sometimes you have to kind of be calm. Sometimes you have to step back, but always in control of the situation and Resistance. That was a Resistance performance for you. Big, beautiful, engaging, taking the people on a journey, bringing them into what Trinbago have, and it was so beautiful. And I think we have to recognize that the masterful artist that was Resistance now, and I just wanted to make sure that I have something I like to say. I like to say, I build my Rhapsody house, I build it in a Rhapsody nation. I tune my Rhapsody TV to the Rhapsody TV station. I watch the Rhapsody news to get the Rhapsody information. And still they want to ask me, what is your occupation? Well, I'm a Rhapsody man from my head to my toe. If you cut my skin, lyrics does flow. The Midnight Robber is my kin. That you should know. So none of them could steal the show. Rhapsody man don't die. We multiply. Might shed a tear, but we don't cry. They hold we back, but yet still we fly. Try to keep we down, but we don't touch the sky. Rhapsody man don't die. We multiply. might shed a tear, but we don't cry. We don't cry. We don't cry. Rapso man don't die. We multiply. Stand firm for your culture.
Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. Thank you so much, Amari. That is such a beautiful presentation and give us and that kind of showing us that part of
Tap here, check your microphone. You might
yes, got it. Thank you so much, Mark, for showing us and remarking on that side of resistance. And I also, if you all noticed in one of the tributes, they also spoke about when he sang on to a group of Italians, dirty lie about Columbus. And he said, well, the crowd was not too pleased, but you know, he was resistance and he telling you like it is, you know. It's amazing performance. And I'm glad that you brought that out, you know. Thank you so much. And now we have Mark.
Hey, blessed day.
Yes.
I thank, of course, the Emancipation Support Committee and Drumline Uprising, you know, for this moment to share the life of Brother Resistance. As we know, this icon was, I mean, he was everything. Brother Resistance was like the air, right? He's inside whatever movement he's represented. He was there and make sure that it stands for itself. My journey with Brother Resistance, similar to Mary's, but I mean, I came through a group called Black Lyrics. At that point in time, 14-year-olds, you know, singing music, rapso music. At that point in Trinidad and Tobago, where young people weren't singing cultural things at all, you know, dancehall and stuff like that was the elements that young people would gravitate to. But, you know, through kindred, you know, singing their form of rapso and their style of rapso, that's how we Black Lyrics gravitate to rapso music. And I knew Brother Resistance before I started singing because one of my uncles, which was Chet Swayu, I mean, going to some of his shows and some of his spoken words performances, and with my aunt and my mom, and I saw Brother Resistance. Yeah, my mom knew Resistance, so you know, they would talk, and I would always sit down and listen to the music. But the opportunity presented itself to us at party time when we were in the finals with Black Lyrics, and Brother Resistance came to that performance. We didn't know, and after the performance, you know, he came backstage and he pointed us. He said, "Fellas, well, was real bad. I want to invite you all to the Rapso workshop." And you know, he told us a little Carib, and from then on, that was history. And Brother Resistance, I would say, mentored me not only as an artist but as an individual, because there are enough times, and I mean, Mary he already testified that, you know, yes, you have your parents who are the instrumentals in your life, instrumentalists in your life, but, you know, and that some things, you know, you couldn't relate to your parents with and they could relate to you, but Resistance was the man who, you know, that father figure, that big brother type of setting. He would go to him for information and he would always guide you on our right path. It may not be, you know, sometimes it may be a little kind of what we'd say in ill-coded messages. You know, he wouldn't come out front and tell you certain things, but, you know, his underlying tones, underlying message, you know, how you're wondering, I was like, oh, okay, all right. And then as time goes on and it reveals itself, you realize, hey, it's a good thing, you know. But Resistance is the guy who, for culture, he's the guy who made sure that you understood it. You know, he gave me that opportunity to be on radio, Rapso Time. And I mean, this is a opportunity that I will continue carrying it on and progress, making sure that it's progressed in the direction it needs to be at. And I just want to thank him for that. I think he was preparing. I don't know. I just think Resistance. I have to share this. I just think Resistance was preparing me for a while now, because, you know, it's little things. You know, as you know, we share Rapso Time show together. But, you know, like 5 years ago, he said, "This yours, you know." That's what I mean. He said, "I ain't gonna be hosting this again. This you." And, you know, he would not come to the studio, and I'll just be me alone, you know. And I think he prepared me for that, you know. And little things he would say, like, "Hey, you gotta get yourself on boards, you know." So I was like, "I mean, get yourself on boards with this boards, you know, different board." Like, he courts and this and that. So my mom was like, I get myself on boards for, and when I check out Resistance live, Resistance was, you know, you're on all these committees and all these boards and all these things, and he was always in meetings, and I mean, nobody could be more busy than Resistance, but he had the time to make sure that he push your culture, push Trinidad and Tobago, push the art form, push rap. So thank you, Brother Resistance, for your, I would say, not only the input alone, but making life become easy, I guess. So thank you, Zakia, and the whole team.
Yes, thank you so much, Mark. And you know, in what you said and what Hamari said, reminded me also of what Nelo said, which was his style of parenting. He not coming out and scolding and giving it, but he making you think so that that decision comes out of you. And you know, that's the best way to teach, you know, to make people come to the reality of themselves so that they believe, well, okay, this has come out of me. So we are supposed to just guide persons in making the right decision. So you can see that that was a constant in how he dealt with young people. And you know, he remained forever young. I saw many people must have been shocked when they heard Resistance's age, because Resistance don't look any different. For most of the years that I've seen him, you know, he maintained the same swagger, the same look, the same energy, you know. He was forever young and knew how to connect with young people. Yes, so we're going to see what Resistance did with Mark by having Mark, one of Mark's videos, and that will be followed by another one of the Rapso soldiers who was close to him, Curious Ringo.
Take me right down to the ground. Take me right down, diggy down. Take me right down to the ground. Take me right down to my foundation. Take me right down to the ground. Take me right down, diggy down. When we ring the bell, we talk about resistance against oppression. In the distance, all the struggle and the pain that we facing again. Hold tight and take a big stance. So that we fight, never surrender. Stand firm as a true Rapso soldier. Indian, African, Chinese, Syrian, combined, lifting the culture. Take me right down to the ground. Take me right down, diggy down. Take me right down to the ground. Take me right down to my foundation. Take me right down to the ground. Take me right down, diggy down. Take me right down to the ground. Take me right down to my foundation. And the leaders is deceivers, cause they cutting the food from the feeders. So they tying up the brain to wipe out again. Take a lump sum, leave the pittance. Slowly rise, never go under. That's the quote of the ghetto soldier. So all the shooting in the lane, anybody's in the chain. Go down and pray to your father. Take me right down to the ground. Take me right down, diggy down. Take me right down to the ground. Take me right down to my foundation. Take me right down to the ground. Take me right down, diggy down. Take me right down to the ground. Take me right down to my foundation. I am a warrior from in the valleys, and I can sing, and I can shout, and I can tell it all about my spirit guiding me. When you look over yonder, tell me who do you see? Walking around with my S on my chest, don't feel like the best, I just confident with my do. You don't understand, eyes you pay no mind to what I do. Heart fall, unless my wounds, now I'm standing again, no time to lose, spirit guiding me. It's time to choose, reinstated mission, have me excuse. I am a warrior from in the valley, and I can sing, oh I can sing, and I can shout, and I can shout, and I can tell it all about my spirit guiding me. When you look over yonder, tell me who do you see? When you look over yonder, tell me who do you see? When you look over yonder, tell me who do you see? When you look over yonder, tell me who do you see? at the right time. Wisdom, understanding, stimulate my mind. You think I'm blind, you claim I evolved from a monkey. False doctrine, I must be a donkey. Detector, the cut on the internet. So deep in my history, I made a check. We done face pain, time to claim the gain. Advance to the next level, whole new game.
Warrior,
warrior
from in the valleys, and I can sing.
Oh, I can sing,
and I can shout.
You can hear me shout,
and I can tell it all about my spirit guiding me. When you look over yonder, tell me who do you see? When you look over yonder, tell me who do you see? When you look over yonder, tell me who do you see? When you look over yonder, tell me who do you see?
I'm looking for the Shantwell, who Shantwell? They say to look for the Shantwell when they have a story to tell. I say I'm looking for the Shantwell, who Shantwell? I's the great grandson of the Shantwell. Ring the bell, let me wake up my nation. Ring it for the elderly, the destiny to the children. Ring the bell in the head of the leaders. Ring a little harder in the head of the warmongers. High time now, thing rearranged. You ever see a man pull to me speed? Check my eyes and see a fire light. Then come up on this and shout Rastafari. Blacker than the merchant of Venice. Never step forward lest the ancient the credit. Yeah, I said it. Now put it in your pipe and don't forget it. Rap says we mission and we purpose on our rims got international because we got reset it. You gotta take the fire, then don't come with Raptor man. Pulling I declare Raptor king in this land. Who open up the speakers and me head playing every station. I come in the name of one. Coming from the hills to show my nation love. I'm moving with the bass and drums to make soccer practice on the morning ground. I come in the name of one. Coming from the hills to show my nation love. I'm moving with the bass and drums to make soccer practice on the morning ground. First life, coming like oil drum. Flat out a pitch bass, treble and song. Still, hear a voice at the time me go come. Every single chance I take I get and perform when brother sing with the hammer gun. That's when my prodigal story take form. People wondering boy how you take so long. Tell them it is the wake sucker on the morning ground. Second life coming like a bass drum now. Tune with a bounce and a range I'll mash up any top. Yeah, me coming with a rap bam. Open up the gate, say the black man. Give them rid of clear the road from Point Port into town. Adams with Charlottesville straight back down to Cochrane. I declare Raptor king in this land. Open up the speakers and me hear playing every station. I come in the name of one. Coming from the hills to show my nation love. I'm moving with the bass and drums to make soccer practice on the morning ground.
On the equal rights and justice control, and if they can be no peace, they can be no peace. Unless equal rights and justice control.
You think they care about the poor and the homeless? You think they care about the pain of the jobless? You think they care about a decent wage and everybody right to live? So much a billion children starving, so much a billion of people dying. They take the billion to promote destruction. No respect for the human race. So they carry in their wars in space. Star Wars, Star Wars. Shame, shame, you have only yourself to blame. I say it's a shame, shame, you have only yourself to blame. Mankind is a shame, shame, you have only yourself to blame. I say it's a shame. You think they care about the working family? You think they care about the mother and the baby? You think they care about your nation right to control their destiny? So much a million of children starving, so much a million of people dying. They take the billion to promote destruction. No respect for the human race, so they carry in their wars in space. Star Wars, Star Wars. Shame, shame, you have only yourself to blame. I say it's a shame, shame, you have only yourself to blame. Mankind is a shame, shame, you have only yourself to blame.
Star Wars, Star Wars, Star Wars, Star Wars.
Hiroshima, Nagasaki.
so much for that, Mark, and all the artists who appeared in that video. What a beautiful video with some really powerful messages. So we move on right on to video of Curious Ringo.
Bring down the drum from the Rapso family. I said to bring the rhythm that alone will set we free. Bring down the rhythm from deep down inside away, inside away. Today, bring back the rhythm that alone will set we free. As I hear a drum, an ancient rhythm. I hear my ancestors calling, yeah, and I hear a sound when the drums coming down. I hearing voices bawling. Them say bring down the drum in the rhythm I love. You better bring back we culture. Some vultures circling high up above. I said to bring back we culture. When them vultures landed, they show no love. Bring back we culture. It's culture alone make the crime dissolve. Bring back we culture. Bring down the drums from the Rapso family, family. I said to bring down the rhythm that alone go set me free. Bring down the rhythm from deep down inside away, inside away. Let me bring back the rhythm that alone go set me free. This is spoken word, oral tradition. Bring it back is the mission. In the race we go take reposition. Face to face, give them ammunition. The steel, the drums, the heartbeat. Let them feel power. The rhythm is real. Now is the hour for the power to reveal. Culturally we going to take for we meal. Tell them already is no more ordeal. Who can hear them sure to feel. Tell them already is no more ordeal. Them sure to feel. When we bring down the drums from the Rapso family. I said to bring down the rhythm that alone go set me free. Bring down the rhythm from deep down inside away, inside away. Let me bring back the rhythm that alone go set me free. Set me free. I'm curious with a Rapso flavor. Bringing the industry what them crave. We bless. Yes, we go always deliver. Got a two-edged sword, we go cut on the haters. Rap so blessed by God, God and His grace. The devil always trying to put a spoken in ways. No telling how long we have in this place. I suggest all you savor the taste. When we bring down the drums from the Rapso family, family. I said to bring down the rhythm that alone go set me free. Bring down the rhythm from deep down inside away, inside away. I said bring down the rhythm that alone go set me free. Cause I hear a drum, an ancient rhythm. I hear my ancestors calling. And I hear a sound, a whip coming down. I still hearing voices bawling. Them say bring down the drum in the rhythm I love. Bring back we culture. Vultures circling high up above. I said to bring back we culture. When them vultures land, they show no love. Let me bring back we culture. Culture alone make the crime dissolve. Let me bring back we culture. I say bring down the drum then. Bring down the drum. Children, bring down the drum, them all you see. I said to bring down the drum, them. Today we go bring down the drum, them. Bring it down, bring it down, bring down the drum from the Rapso family.
Thank you so much, Curious Ringo. And now we move on to continue our tributes. And we have some colleagues of, special colleagues, I should say, of Brother Resistance. And they are Professor Ms. Florence Blizzard, Professor Miller Reggio, and Dr. Patricia Van Luard Munsami. So they are now going to let you know who they are, their association with Brother Resistance, and their tributes. So I will start with Florence.
Thank you so much, Zakia. Thank you so much. First, let me offer our deepest condolences to the Lewis family, to Neil, to Nilo, and the rest of the family. I remember Brother Resistance with a lot of fondness. He was one of our cultural ambassadors to the Trinity in Trinidad study abroad program. This exchange program, in collaboration with the University of the West Indies, facilitated students from Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut, USA, to continue studies for their college degrees at UE for 1 or sometimes 2 semesters. The heartbeat of the study abroad program, as designed by Trinity College, however, was the opportunity to immerse themselves in the various cultural art forms of our country. Professor Miller Riggio was the face of Trinity in Trinidad, and Tony Hall, now transitioned, together, both of them invited the exponents of the different cultural genre so as to ensure that this immersion was a rich and fulfilling experience. In 2005, Brother Resistance collaboration with the program began. He was invited to present the workshops on Rapso. Now, this collaboration with the program continued uninterruptedly for 14 years, twice a year, of course, with a different cohort of students. When we do the math, we know how many students from Trinity College were introduced to Rapso music over that period, courtesy Brother Resistance. The Drumline Uprising store on Charlotte Street was home to these interactive workshops. Sister Ava was always present to welcome and prep the groups. The students sat where seats were available, and the rest nestled on the floor in preparation for a 2-hour encounter with Rapso music and Brother Resistance. Brother Resistance, with his warmth and engaging personality, created a magical space for the understanding and expression of the Rapso art form. And what an adventure that was. This one-of-a-kind experience began with a lecture, a riveting, informative, historical walk through the beginnings of Rapso, and culminated with performances by himself and the students as they were invited to compose their own Rapso to culminate the sessions. Sister Ava helped to bring the chorus as Brother Resistance led the students through their endeavors. What we observed over the years is that many students chose the Rapso art form as the medium of expression for their final creative paper in the Festival and Drama course taught by Tony Hall. This bears testimony to the impact that Rapso music created in their psyche. The workshop not only also served as a springboard for the students to visit Brother Resistance at his shop, just for the vibes and the informal lessons which these meetings generated, but also as the spark that ignited the students' interest for the much anticipated Rapso concerts held at the Central Bank Auditorium and other venues during the years. In short, he became a friend of the program, and invitations to bond with the students outside of the workshops and bring the Rapso rhythm to the students' cultural fare were readily accepted by him. It was a beautiful relationship. He left an indelible mark on the program, and we are very grateful that it happened. Thanks for the music, brother. We remember your confident proclamation. Enough. I am resistance. I walk with the glory of kings. Rest in peace, brother. Thank you, Zakia.
I feel so privileged. I am Professor Miller Riggio. I feel so privileged to be here today. Being neither young, gifted, nor Black, I cannot hope to match the tributes that we have heard already. But perhaps along with Flory and others, I can show a little of the reach, the far reach that Rapso bell in Brother Resistance's hand actually made. I met Brother Resistance at my first Trinidad Carnival in 1995, 1 year before the release of The Power of Resistance. ringing out its Rapso bell of justice, freedom, emancipation, liberation of his people, and culture. We must not forget culture. Resistance was a commissioner of the National Carnival Commission. My Trinidad hosts that year. Though we came from different worlds, different races, and different cultures, we met in a special place reserved by the universe for kindred spirits to meet and mingle, unencumbered by time and space. A space grounded on the earth that is so important for Brother Resistance to touch with his Rapso, which, by the way, I saw Sister Ava touch earlier today. If we two so very different people could find each other, our souls intermingled forever in that space, there is hope for the world. We must believe it because he believed it. That was 26 years ago. And though on most of my 150 plus visits to Trinidad, we found a time for a hug and a word physically together, we always shared that space, together or apart. We did accomplish a few things together in that time. As a cornerstone of our Trinity and Trinidad program, as you have just heard, he was a powerful teacher who infused his spirit and his music into the institution, to which he contributed, but to which he never belonged. He brought the world of resistance into the academy. In February 2016, as an artist, he helped to transform Turning Tides, a conference that dedicated Trinity House, which UWI had built for my small university, Trinity College in Hartford, on the UWI campus. And you see that behind me now. He is still with us. His presence alone, with that of other iconic Trinidad artists, was transformative. He was there for everything, every day. But without transport, it seemed he would not be able to ring that Rapso bell in a performance for us on Saturday night of that week. But halfway through the show, there he was. As Nola said earlier, he simply magically appeared with his bell. Then a couple of years later, Professor John Agard helped us secure an honorary degree for UWI degree for Shadow after the deadline for applying had passed. A miracle. Wait till next year, sober minds said, but we knew we could not wait, and we were right. For Shadow died on Wednesday of the week in which he was to receive the only degree of its kind that UWI has ever given posthumously. Together, we celebrated a triumph that was not his or mine, but Shadow's and Trinidad's. Brother Resistance touched many lives in many different ways, mine and my students among them. Though I have wept an ocean almost as broad as that which separates our worlds, I know that somewhere out there in that special space, he and I are still meeting, spirit to spirit, as each of us seeks to be reintegrated into the universe from which we came and to which he has just returned. The world is alive with the sound of the bell of justice, of freedom, of culture. We have never needed it more. And even now, though he has transitioned to another state, we look to our Rapso mentor, man of the streets and the people, Brother Resistance, to ring that bell for all of us, for my students and for everyone else. Thank you, brother. Bless you, Brother Resistance, my friend, who has enshrined an unforgettable place in the history of Trinity College as you soar high above us on the wings of your music and your inimitable soul, flying high, but always grounded on that precious earth. Rest in peace, but never stop ringing the bell. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Miller-Riggio. And now we have Dr. Patricia Munsami.
It's an honor to be invited to contribute to this tribute to Brother Resistance. I first met Brother Resistance in 2004 when I was conducting dissertation research in Trinidad and Tobago on the role of music and performance in mediating and illuminating interethnic relations in the nation. I was walking down Arapita Avenue on my way to a rehearsal of the Divas International Calypso Cabaret at the Mass Camp Pub. I saw Brother Resistance and mustered my courage to call out to him to introduce myself and tell him about my research interests. Brother Resistance was accessible, gracious, and kind, and agreed to meet with me to discuss his work in Rapso and with the arts in Trinidad and Tobago. During that period of dissertation fieldwork and over the years during subsequent research trips, he was generous with his time, his life history, and his intellectual analysis. Brother Resistance was the consummate organic intellectual, as theorized by the Italian theorist Antonio Gramsci. But his role in society was complex. He attended the most prestigious of schools in Trinidad, including Queen's Royal College and the University of the West Indies at St. Augustine, but always pushed against the elite intelligentsia, bringing his life experience and his worldview as an African Trinidadian man who was raised in the economically depressed but culturally rich hills of Mova and Laventille to the fore of his social analysis and artistic expression. His epic poem, Pan Baby, celebrated and reified the role of steel pan performance in the cultural history of the emergent nation, while also standing as an artifact of resistance against the gatekeepers of literary traditions at QRC, who told him his craft was not poetry because it did not conform to the rules and strictures of poetry as circumscribed by colonial tastes. He wedded the percussive rhythms of the drum to the percussive rhythms of creolized speech, following in the footsteps of pioneers of the emergent Rapso form, such as Lancelot Cabulain and Cheryl Byron, while firmly establishing Rapso as a form of local artistic expression connected to other like forms throughout the African diaspora. The corpus of his work reflects his awareness of the ecosystem in which he lived and worked. His songs spoke to the human experience of life in a Caribbean island, with attention to the physical landscape as reflected in his song, Mother Earth. His work lifted up and centered the importance of Caribbean syncretic spiritualities, as exemplified in his songs, Jah Never Fail Me and Ring the Bell. He historicized the brutal colonial past in songs such as The Middle Passage, while agitating for revolutionary change in the present with songs such as Rock the Colonial Order and Can't Take That. Brother Resistance moved within the sphere of the elite intelligentsia, but through the performance of his body, his nation language, as theorized by the Barbadian scholar Kamal Brathwaite, the art in which he clothed his body, the expression of his ideas and his activism, he remained the organic intellectual, critiquing the past and present while laying the foundation of a more just, equitable, and beautiful future. He left us before he could complete his doctorate in cultural studies at the University of the West Indies at St. Augustine. I have no doubt that he would have written a dissertation that challenged the elite intelligentsia and the structures that uphold inequality and oppression, while reflecting the lived experiences, aspirations, and worldview of those with whom he walked while on this earth. His scholarship, however, resides in the poetry, rapso, live performances, and writings that he shared with us during his lifetime. And for that, we are all enriched. Rest in peace, Brother Resistance. Thank you.
We want to thank Florence, Professor Miller, and Dr. Patricia for filling us in and getting us to know about the international reach of our dear brother Lutalo and Masimba, Brother Resistance. And I think now is the perfect time for us to share one of the pieces of music, Rapso, that he produced that also really reached out to the world and became a world-renowned Rapso composition. So let's hear Mother Earth.
vibes be one with you, Mother Earth. Let my vibes be one with you, Mother Earth. I only want to know you. I only want to know you, Mother. To know you is to love you, Mother Earth. Oh, Mother Earth. Is it too late? 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 Is it too late to save the earth? To save the earth. From you come all material things. To you all things material go return. You is the heartbeat of man's survival, Mother Earth. Provider of food when I hunger, fountain of water when I thirst. Oh, Mother Earth, in your womb, centuries of seeds does be planted. Blessed be the fruit of thy womb, Mother Earth. So much harvest you deliver, yet we take you for granted, Mother. Your beauty with the face, destroying the trees in the forest, distressing the ozone layer, polluting the waters with acid rain and toxic waste. I only want to know you. I only want to know you, Mother. To know you is to love you, Mother Earth. Oh, Mother Earth. Is it too late? 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 Is it too late to save the earth? Can we save the earth? Let my vibes be one with you, Mother Earth. Let my vibes be one with you, Mother Earth. There's no one tender, fertile lover, Mother Earth. Oh, Mother Earth. Take me in your arms and rock me. Take me in your arms and rock me, Mother Earth. Mother Earth. There's no woman tender, fertile lover, Mother Earth. Mother Earth.
Oh, yes. Let us be say within the tradition, Mother of the Earth, please take your son and keep him in your arms and rock him as he travels on his journey. So now we come to the last group of tributes, and these are from some of the special friends of Brother Resistance. Dennis Cox, with whom he worked, both a colleague and friend, Peter Blood, Masimba Kunle, and Peter Burke. So two of them were going to be recorded, which is Peter Blood and both Peters, as a matter of fact, and Peter Burke. Then Dennis is here to give us his tribute live, and also Masimba. So we start with the recording of Peter Blood.
Hi. Good evening. Lutalo Masimba, Brother Resistance. What can I say about it? I have known Lutalo from boyhood. We were in school together at Queen's Royal College. I knew him as Roy Lewis, and he was, like most of the guys at Farsi, very playful. He is very intelligent, especially in the area of literature. Maybe that is why he was so good at words and doing poetry and data with rap. But anyhow, to step forward, after leaving school, I was around the time of the Black Power movement. He joined most of us, especially those of us that came from East Dry River now until we got embroiled, or should I say involved, in the Black Power movement, especially in the field of culture. And that's where it all started from. And since then, we have been quite close. He, musically, I, journalism, so paths would be always crossing. Then he became the chairman of TUCO, which meant that we continued along a similar road, different ways, but similar road. He performing, I writing. Lutalo's passing is a big loss, and I wish that something could be done significantly to remember. One of the things I know that one of the pet projects he had in mind was to create some sort of museum, something that could keep Calypso and Calypsonians forever in hearts and minds. I hope that this could come to fruition, and he is terribly missed. You know, the thing about Lutalo also, although he is very serious on issues, Lutalo had a very good sense of humor, could make you laugh. The things that you talk about, and you know, you always had a funny clip. Network with Band was very close to his heart, and it would be real nice if that too, you know, somewhere in East River, probably at the corner of Charlotte Street and Oxford Street, some sort of memorial, maybe a mural or something, could be mounted on the building on the corner there, opposite the church, on the corner of Oxford and Charlotte Street, a mural remembering it. Can't really think of anything much more to say right now, more than your Miss Lutalo. Wherever you are, I hope that Olodumare continues to keep you in his bosom, and that you continue ringing that bell for cultures. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Peter. Thank you. I know you will indeed miss your friend. And now we invite Dennis. Yes, Dennis is here with us.
Greetings, pleasant evening to every one of us here, Trinidad and Tobago. And I want to say special tribute to Sister Zakia, Wadada, Chair of the Emancipation Support Committee. I want to give greetings to the Drumline, Brother Neil Lewis, Sister Nilo Lewis, colleagues and friends of Brother Masimba. It is indeed a pleasure to be honored to accept an invitation to make a contribution in commemoration of the life of the dear brother, Resistance, Lutalo, Mapusa, Masimba. Our acquaintance came way back in the 1970s, 1976 to be exact, at University campus in Augustine, when my first encounter with Brother Resistance was a patented greeting. Is what? You know, and you have to respond. As Neil said earlier on, when you hear this is what? Ready to converse and to be educated in different ways. When he's quiet, most of the time, it's either he's listening to you attentively or he turn off from you because your contribution is, your logic to him is illogical. Brother Resistance is a leader, an influencer, and his strength and power lies in his creativity. When I approached in UE, Brother Resistance is the person who I learned that converted the billiard room, which is really a recreation room in UE, to the I room. And the I room is a special room to me and a special place. So a lot of us, where there was 2 doorways, no doors. And we would meet there and converse on matters of culture, matters of politics, matters of national importance, matters of international importance. And you know, it's nice to know that I met a lot of people there for influence in the I room. It reminds me of Sister Myron Ali. He went to the I room and made some very positive contribution to my life, to others. We have some influence of the politicians, the Blumen and the Honan politician at the time, Brother Coleman Burke and Brother Wade Mark used to pass it and make their contribution. Some of them don't enter the I room, but they stand up outside the I room. But along to in the vicinity of the I room, you are part of the I room. You know, it's a pleasure to stretch a brother, you know, a lot of guys who pass through the I room, Hakim, you know, made positive contribution. The governor of the central bank, who I would say who passed outside the I room, you know, and made some positive contribution to our lives in terms of economics and the social science, in terms of academia. Is what? During that time on campus, Brother Resistance is the one who introduced the Kaiso Club on campus, because Brother Resistance aim and objective was way beyond us. He was strategic in terms of how we look at culture, how we look at life in Trinidad and Tobago, how we look at the Caribbean diaspora. So his contribution was, listen, we need to have culture as an integral part of the university education, because as resistance, Brother Resistance, he already resisted the status quo. And we introduced what we call the cultural center. The I room was the cultural center of the University of the West Indies in the 1970s. And there we converted informally to the Faculty of Culture in the University of the West Indies. Because at that time there was no creative arts centers in the Soul. And there we hone our creative skills in understanding and breaking down and interpreting the culture of Trinidad and Tobago, understanding the origin of our culture, understanding where we want to take the culture, understanding the fight down and the resistance to a people in the 70s trying to liberate themselves, you know, and to create a new identity. And it's there we forge our personalities. Some of us who stick to the academia, Brother Resistance was academia, but culture was his religion. And as we say, your religion comes first, you know? And while you have a degree, while he got a degree, a first degree in university, then he went on to get a second degree at UTT, and he was in the process of getting a PhD at the University of the West Indies. And I hope the University of the West Indies would take consideration to the contribution of the guy, Lutalo Masimba, and to give him post his university degree, the PhD. Our journey continued after leaving university. I was flabbergasted when I heard "Put on your dancing shoes, boom, 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 boom. When we go into the disco, when we go into the disco, you know, and that song started ponging on all the airwaves. Well, you had two radio stations, Radio 16 and Radio, Trinidad.
Yes.
And listen, man, put on your dancing shoes, TTT, or only radio or television station. You have a video about the resistance and the network with a band lighting up the place in them time. You go to the disco, you go, put on your dancing shoes, yeah, put it on. We go to the disco, And as a follow fashion, you know, Trini, I and my brother, we both, Jane Bazen, we decided, listen, we send them bus out here. And we decided to bus out too, because we all from the Kaiso Club from UE. And we did a rockers party in 1980. And we went to the same route. We went to the radio station. We went to TTT. We did the demo. It was put on your dancing shoes. I went to a party the other day. The party most irie. Everyone started to sing. The rockers party start jamming. So and then we make a unity inside there because of the rockers party and put on your dancing shoes, mashing up the airwaves. And later on, we want to meet again. But Resistance went to Kai Festa, I think it was 1980 or somewhere thereabout, or 81. And his got a booth and there he traded our records, Rockers Party, dancing shoes. But that song was a flip side, and we had We Should Be Dancing by Reboot, and you know, and we got some international or Caribbean fame by having our records sold out in the Caribbean through Kai Festa, 1981, I think it was. Following that, Resistance came to me and said, listen, the government has decided to give TOBAGO, the organization where he was General Secretary at the time, to give them funding to run the affairs of Calypso for Carnival. And in order to do that, the government wanted to have assurance that there's a finance team in place to manage the fund, because they didn't trust Calypsonian. I get given it role. When the son came to me, I was really under the auspices of the central bank at the time, and he said, Lasana, I want you to be a part of the finance committee. I agreed because I know it's something new created, because Resistance always created. And together with Clary Ben of the Unit Trust, we all under the umbrella of the central bank. And Renwick Nikki, we formed the finance committee for TOBAGO. And the little money that they get, I think was 2 million or something like that. We had to manage and show TOBAGO how to spend the money. We had budget and we have allocation, and we decided to manage the thing as a business. And it was commendable to know that Brother Resistance had that. He did, although I did management and he did social sciences, history, you know, but he had that understanding that wherever you need help, you see. And then that group we created, and we were able to form a finance committee and to guide the organization from inception TOBAGO in the early 80s into with the aim of being self-sufficient and managing the fund. Later on, I became research officer, I was elected research officer in TOBAGO because I was involved in the Calypso, and later on treasurer. And we forged a unity. As general secretary, treasurer, we worked with the president of TOBAGO, and we sort of guided on the background because we were the graduates at the time, and we guided the president of TOBAGO in taking the organization forward. One secret he gave me, and I feel like I share it here, but he says, listen, Lasada, you and Reboot, the mistake all they make is to come in the Kaiso thing and tell people you come with a degree. It does have some little separation, you know? And I learned the hard way, you know, in terms of how people see you. If you're academic and you're wearing tie, and if you know, as the grassroots and that separation. And within that, I mean, he used to call me the tie man, because working in the central bank environment and the business environment, you have to put on a little tie in, you know? But culture, we were bonded by culture and understanding that we have something that was God-given, culture to create music. And we also had a God-given talent to be in the academia. Okay, and that too is a very dangerous to us because we could get some negative, you know, we suffer negative consequences by being both in these both worlds. As TOBAGO, as treasurer TOBAGO, Masimba always would tell you, we need paper trail. We want to document everything that we do, and we want policies and procedure. But as an accountant, I was able to put the accounting policies and procedures in place. However, not too many people, internal of the organization and external the organization, understand the man, Brother Masimba, Lutalo Masimba, and what he stands for. He's trying to put a business approach to Tuku, a business approach and an independent approach to Tuku, independence of the treasury. And he continued to end the stating that, listen, we want to be self-sufficient, independent of the treasury. In so doing, we start forging relationship with corporate TNT to run our programs. And we are saying we want to be independent of the government, because every government has their policy towards culture. And the policies towards culture were never in favor of the cultural participants. You know, and I can say that because I feel it and I know it. Right? However, we in giving credit to Brother Masimba, we were able to use our network from UE to create alliances. We got through with an NLCB to sponsor the Calypso Fiesta, to be the what we call the main sponsor. We got FCB, First Citizen Bank, to be the main sponsor of the Junior National Calypso Mona competition. We'll be able to talk to JetBlue, Caribbean Airlines, E-Mobile, and a host of other corporate entities to partner with Tuku in delivery of the Carnival product, of the Calypso product. You know, and I must commend them. And you know, we started working on the Museum for Calypso under the People's Partnership Government, and we did in fact got a contribution to start the museum in a different form. And the politics of the day, that went way, way, way out. And all of Brother Masimba said, do not get into politics. Members of the executive, stay out of the politicians. Stay away from the politicians. As an organization, you could have your party, but stay away from the politicians as an organization. And it's sad to know that, you know, that whole idea of starting the library for Calypso, the museum, sorry, for Calypso, escalated into a political, you know, negative. I don't want to get further into it. We went to the point of, you know, meeting with members of government to have the Sparrow, the hideaway, converted into a museum for Calypso. We're trying to kill two birds with one stone. We're trying to honor the mighty Sparrow, Dr. Slinger Francisco, and at the same time using that cultural environment or that cultural space to be converted into the Calypso Museum. The mighty Sparrow, from the discussion he had with Brother Resistance, he was really game to it, and it still hasn't, you know, bear fruit. But upon his passing or transition, I would hope that those who listen to us will continue on that journey to ensure that a museum for Calypso becomes a reality. The governor of the central bank, Dr. Hilaire, I must give him, you know, kudos in seeing that or recognizing that a Calypso for Calypso could be a reality. And he subtly you know, not verbally, but he subtly indicated that that he would like to make a contribution to that end. So Brother Masimba, 2019, Kaiso House, you know, I could spend the rest of the day talking, but Kaiso House, he said that we need to have a structure. And in Kaiso House, there's a structure for entry, a structure for where you place in the program, you know, a structure for the program itself. Right? No, we don't want social commentary to be 100% social commentary for the night. We want a mixture, social commentary, political commentary, rhapsody, party, and youth. And he always focused on the youth element. He wanted to have a youth element in Kaiso House, you know, and people say, well, you bring me a set of young people, them I know not more Kaiso. But for transitioning, for, you know, we need to have, you know, and he insisted on having the youth element in the tent. And we had some positive outcome from that. We had a couple of them making the Soca Monarch. If I could just remember quickly, college boy, Jesse, is one of them, and we had Lani K, Juby. They only make these Monarch finals and Super Monarch finals. In closing, I just want to give a little excerpt from one of a song I did in 2019. There's a mystic flowing through the air. Bob Marley vibes, I just want to share. It's a sad, sad day when an icon dies. It's a sad, sad day when a country cries for his musicians. For his musicians, hail Mr. Music Man. Thanks for the music of the land. Thank you, Father, Jadi Creator. Hail Mr. Music Man. Thanks for the contribution. Thank you, Father. Thank you, Brother Resistance, for the music. Ring the bell, of course.
Am I on?
Yes, you are. Go ahead.
Okay. I am Makemba Kunle, artist, and I would like to say a little about Brother Resistance as an artist who supported every exhibition that I've had, and not only mine, he was also there for Leroy Clark. I'd like us also to remember Leroy Clark has transitioned this period also, and he would support Bill Trotman. As a matter of fact, at the last Bill Trotman exhibition, he bought a painting. He bought a painting from Bill. There's also he also tried to promote Dr. Wilby with his art also, and at certain periods he also had exhibitions for those Calypsonians who do paintings and sculpture and so on. He would always show his face for events, most times late, but he'd be there. I see him when you look at Leroy, who just passed, and I would look at Leroy as a champion of the post-independence movement, or the independence and post-independence movement. I would see Masimba as representing the radicalization of the movement post-1970, the anti-colonial movement in general, and the movement for people's power in particular. Was he exhibited all the revolutionary attributes that we promoted in the movement. Love for people, respect for the elders and the elevation of the elders. He would always make mention of people like Lancelot Lane, Abdul Malik, Kwesi, and so on, upon whose shoulders he stood. Respect for the women, the fight for justice. He had been in many protest situations, from anti-apartheid to most recently here, Black Lives Matter. He was there to join, to give support to any movement for fairness, for justice, and for people power, and to break down the colonial structures. And as was mentioned by some of the other speakers, especially Omari, the idea of preparing the youth, giving the youth a chance, preparing them for the future. We can't fault him on that. He's been doing that all his life. He was a leader. And there's hardly anything much more that I can say that has not been said here. So I wouldn't keep myself, I wouldn't allow myself to be repeating too much that other people said. But he was one of those of that post-70 generation that led the way. And rest in peace, Brother Masimba. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Makemba. And the last in this group will be Peter Burke from Desperados Steel Orchestra. Welcome. We have a recording of Peter.
Though not recognized as such, the Emancipation Declaration was the most important event in the history of our Twin Island state. We, the Desperados elders, and by extension, the entire Laventille community, recognize as such and join in the recognition of all the ancestors that have paved the way and contributed to our social and cultural landscape. Today we celebrate the life of Brother Lutalo Masimba, who has given yeoman service. Born of humble origin, he was the perfect model of cultural and intellectual genius. We celebrate his legacy of rhapsody creation, leadership of Tuco, and exemplary conduct as a model of the well-rounded Laventille citizenry. We release a clarion call for our beloved brother to receive recognition in the Independence Honors List, Shakonia Gold. His quiet and purposeful demeanor belie his magnetic and caring personality. Again, on behalf of the Laventille community, we say a loving farewell to our beloved brother who joins a pantheon of cultural icons in the realms of eternity.
Thank you very much, Peter. I mean, what can we say? I mean, it's almost unreal that, you know, we are in this space where we are speaking of Brother Resistance no longer being with us. I want to thank Dennis in particular and Brother Book for those stories around the I Room, you know, because that was such a powerful institution, as he referred to it, within the university that shaped so many of us. And of course, my dear sister, Myron Ali, you know, he also mentioned, you know, I did say earlier there were two females and the other female was married. In fact, she introduced me to the I Room. And interesting, and I think there's a story to tell about this space, you know, which shaped the minds. And as Dennis said, the persons who came out of it, you know, people would pass in the I Room and think, those be inside of their wasting time, we're not going to class and so on. But most of the persons who were in that space or who dared to stand at the door and have some conversation has emerged in leadership positions in Trinidad and Tobago. So we really have to think about our education and how we educate, you know, the culture, the critical role of culture in education. And, you know, I don't want to allow my, you know, my emotions and thoughts to, you know, to come to take over at this particular point in time. But, you know, I really, really think that is such an important thing for us to remember and for our leaders to remember. Let us spend our resources on culture, community development, the arts, so that we don't have to spend so much money on national security. So that is a key message that I would really like to bring at this time. Thank you so much to Dennis and to all those who went before him. And now we are going to play the music and hope that he is hearing and that he is tapping his feet and shaking and enjoying it in his cool swagger, the music of his band, his favorite band. Birdsong was a band in which he was very much involved, but I think he grew, again, coming out of his community. He also had a very close relationship and love for the Desperados Steel Orchestra, the current Panorama champions, and this is one of his favorite songs that is being played by the band.
The captain of the band is Adrian Glasgow. The band has a management team headed by Finbar Fletcher. Their bands are tuned by Vernon Henry, Roland Harrigan, and Desmond Richardson. Their tune is More Soca, sung by Nyla Blackman. Band number 7, Desperados.
Lloyd. More soca, more soca, more soca.
Sorry, we know that is one of the songs, that is Desperados' winning performance at Panorama, and I know many of you would have liked to hear that one, but the one that we were asked to play for him from Despas is another song, and we are going to pull up that one now. Sorry about that. Title of it is All. Yes, the sweet, beautiful, and melodious sounds of our steel pan. Thank you so much to the Desperados Steel Orchestra. Now we have come to the last item on our program. But before I do so, I really want to thank all of you. I know we have gone an hour over what we would have planned, but I think it was worth every minute of it, because who could we have stopped from expressing themselves about Brother Resistance? We have learned so much about him. I think now that we have heard from so many different persons who have interacted and engaged his life in so many different ways, our appreciation and love for him and respect for him has grown tremendously. I thank each and every one of you who took the time, all of those out there who may have still wanted and wished that they too had an opportunity to express themselves about him. But we as an organization will continue to create spaces for us to remember his contribution and his commitment to our people. I thank all of you, all of those who joined us here on the Zoom, all of those who joined us on Facebook. Thank you, Carol. I see you had a time. I love how you do all those little caricatures and dancing. Thank you, Carol, for being here with us, and all of those who participated online. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. We know everyone couldn't stay the course with us, but we thank you for being there, for passing through, even if it's for a short while. I am very pleased. I enjoyed the session. I enjoyed hearing from everybody, reconnecting with some persons, and we thank you all. But we think that there is no fitting way, no better way, I should say, no better way to end than with Resistance's collaboration with Pretender, telling us to never, never worry. No mind how things looking bad. Never, never worry. So it was with thanks that I thank all of you and represent our closing contribution from Brother Resistance and Pretender.
The long time something come back again. Mix the thing. The long time something come back again. Mix the thing from rap sort of kaiso. Mix the thing from rap sort of kaiso. Mix the thing. Introducing the lyrical power and the great honorable Pretender. He's the true grandmaster, the extempo. And rhyme and the lyrics on the floor. So tell it to the world and make the whole world know. He's a living legend in the house of Kaiso. So come in, Pretender.
Some people in the world today don't realize that worries no pay. Let the people in the world today don't realize that worries no pay. Pressing the worries upon your shoulder, only bringing you older and older. These wicked things them people does do. They don't realize you have worries too. Tell them to never ever worry.
Never worry, never worry, never worry about a thing. No.
Never ever worry.
But life is never easy. Hear the song we sing.
Never ever worry. What I'm saying
is true.
Always consider somebody suffering more than you.
Never worry, just free up your mind. Same way just send the rain, send the sun to shine. And if you get yourself falling flat on your face, I say to pick yourself up and get back in the race. Mix the thing. Pretender. Mix the thing. From rap sort of kaiso. Never worry about that thing. Just relax yourself and hear Pretender sing.
When I was young, Granny said to me, "Alright boy, never ever worry, or your problem would seem bigger and bigger, and you'll be living a life of torture." She told me as a matter of fact, to fling all my troubles behind my back, keep in touch with the Almighty, for guidance, love and serenity. She said to never ever worry, don't mind how things looking hard. My granny told me, never ever worry. Don't mind how you're suffering bad. Granny tell me, never ever What I'm saying is true. Always consider somebody suffering more than you.
I say when it have life, it have hope. So even when you find it hard for you to cope, come on, I say to wipe your tears away. Kiss yourself and hug yourself and let the music play. Never worry, never worry, never worry about a thing. No. Never ever worry. But life is never easy. Hear the song we sing. Never ever worry. What I say is true. Always consider somebody suffering more than you.
Tell them to never ever worry. Don't mind how things looking hard. I say to tell them never ever worry. Don't mind how you're suffering bad.
Tell them again.
Never ever worry. What I'm saying is true.
So true.
Always consider somebody suffering more